Hello, thanks for tuning into this video. This one could end up being fairly lengthy. I'll try and keep it as short and to the point as I can, but yeah, if you don't like long videos, then perhaps this one isn't for you. So, what I thought I would do is just kind of deconstruct one of my tracks, my recent releases called Trust, sort of go through how I put it together, how I mixed it, how I approached the arrangement, and all that kind of stuff. And what I will also do is, for my Patreon subscribers, I will make available my Ableton Live set like this, and I will also put all the stems for the track, because obviously, you know, I'm going to have VSTs and stuff in here that you may not have. And if anybody wants to then have a go at remixing it, you will need to be a Patreon subscriber to have a go at remixing it. But yeah, if you want to remix it and have a go at doing that, I will be happy to release a little EP of remixes. So yeah, just talking about the Patreon thing first of all, I've got this for anybody who wants to basically support the channel and help me out and help me to keep it going. It's very, very cheap. I'm going to make this remix thing available to all the tiers of the subscribers. So whether that's this two main tiers, $1, pound or euro a month, and then there is a second tier of $3.50. So it's a tiny amount, and you will get free stuff, and you'll get like remix projects and things like this. So there's a link to that in the description. Go check that out. And if you're new to the channel, then please feel like what am I trying to say? If you're new to the channel, subscribe. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So if you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the little bell button thing, and you'll get notifications when I upload new videos, which I'm trying to sort of do on a weekly basis now, possibly even a couple of weeks. We'll see how we go. So this is my latest release. This was out a couple of weeks ago, in I think September the 4th, I think it was, 2020. So a couple of weeks ago is now. Obviously, if you're watching this in 10 years' time, it's been out for 10 years. I've had a really good response to this, actually. It's a little bit different to what I normally do. Well, I say it's a little bit different. It's slightly different. There's no 303, no acidy stuff in this. But I've had a really good response to this. It got played on BBC Introducing, and also got a few other plays on local radio as well during the daytime. And generally, yeah, just been really happy with the response to it. So I thought I would sort of break it down and show you how I made it, hopefully. So it's a fairly, there's quite a bit going off in this. I started out with this bass part. So let's have a look at this first. So my idea with this track was I wanted to have sort of like a more note changes than I would perhaps normally have. So I've got like this loop of 8 bars. So let's just have a listen to this bass first of all. Let's just solo that out on. Okay, so that is the 8-bar loop, which actually, if I go, trying to remember what notes I did it in. So we're 124 beats per minute, because I didn't want it to be too fast for this one, more of a chilled kind of vibe. And if I remember rightly, I did it in A minor, and I believe these are the notes for it. If I just play that bass again. That's not the bass. I know that's the. Yes, they are the notes. Right. So we start on A. So it goes da, then up to C, and then up to C again. No, they're not the notes. Let's try and find the flipping notes. Because they're just the pads. Oh well, it doesn't particularly matter. It'll come to me. I'll get it there at some stage. But yeah, anyway, they were the notes. If I turn on the System 8, I can work it out. So anyway, that was the 8-bar loop, and I'll get those notes for you in a second. So that was kind of like the starting point of the track. I wanted to work it round that. And then what I basically did was I just recorded the audio off the System 8. and then kind of messed about with the filter a little bit and looped it and stuff. Let me try and work out the notes. So yeah, we start on A, which is that note. So it goes A down to G, so it's A, up to C, then we go down to E, and then down to D at the end. So they're the notes for it if you're really that interested with it. So once I'd got that that basic thing of the track going, everything else sort of followed on around that, really, because that was going to form the basics of it. So this, like I say, this was the System 8 bass, which I just recorded in. We've got another bass here, which I can't quite remember what I did this one off. Okay, I believe this was, if I remember rightly, because I had to freeze a lot of these tracks down because it was really maxing out my CPU. That is one of my favourite synths, and I tend to use this quite a lot, which is this hybrid. And I'm pretty sure I did that off there, if I remember rightly. Let's just load that in. I'll show you. Because I can't remember where I got this from. I think I got it. It's like a free thing from a music show I went to, and it tends to be my go-to VST synth. It's really cool. It's got tons of presets on it, which is good, and then you can tweak all those. And yeah, so 3 oscillators, usual things, filters and all of that, and then you've got lots of effects and sequencer and all this kind of stuff. So yes, great VST. I can highly recommend that. So I think what I did with that one was, it was one of the ARP presets that I then tweaked a little bit. And that second bass part is really just following the same notes, but as you can hear, it's just doing this kind of rhythm of pretty much sort of every 3rd 16th note. So they're all following the same note pattern. So if we put those two together, okay, so it gives us this nice sort of long 8-bar pattern of these note changes, and I just kind of randomly messed about with some notes until I got a sequence that I liked. I'll come back to that in a second. So that was kind of like the starting point of the track. If we go right to the beginning, what I wanted to do was sort of start it off with some kind of like higher pitch, sort of arpeggiated kind of stuff, and so the track starts with this, which is again recorded from a bit of hardware, the Uno. Okay, so I just sequenced this off the Deluge and just recorded that in, and then it's just kind of like every 3rd 16th note on that. And then what we start off with is, let's just get the whole track started going. So I didn't want to start it just with that. I felt you wanted some kind of percussion stuff with it. So we've got 16th notes on the hi-hat, and then this shaker loop. So the hi-hat is just the Ableton 808 kit. So all we're doing, that's just on the MIDI there. So we're just basically playing 16ths all the way through on the hi-hat, and then we've got this shaker loop, which is a Vengeance loop sample thing, just to give it a little bit of groove. And then you got the hi-hats. So we had that in then with the Uno. Okay, so if you're just talking about arrangement, I mean, if people aren't that familiar with kind of the way to arrange songs, basically you want to change something on some multiple of 4. So very often it's usually every 8 bars. This track, something happens pretty much every 8 bars. Okay, as we go through the track, you'll see how that sort of develops, and we just keep adding stuff in and layering stuff in. So yeah, I'm following the rule of 8 on this one. So the kick, I remember with this one having a nightmare job with the kick just to get a kick that I liked, and I ended up doing 2 actually. So for my kick, sometimes I'll use the 808 Ableton one. Sometimes I'll record some. I've got the RD8, the Behringer RD8, so sometimes I'll just record it off the hardware. But for this one, I wanted to be very specific, so I've got this VST, again, which is great for kick drums for 909s and 808s and all that kind of stuff. So it's Kick by Nicky Romero, which looks like this. And the great thing with this is you can tune your bass drums. And again, that's something that a lot of people perhaps don't do. You want to try and tune your bass drum to the key that you're in. So you can see here, you've got kind of like the different kind of envelope bits of the kick. So it starts on A sharp 4, it should actually be on A, but I was slightly out there, and then kind of goes down like that. So if we ever listen to that kick in isolation, so if you change these, okay, so you can see there's like different elements of the kick you can change. I've now just stuffed up my kick, but there we go. Will it let me undo that? No, it won't. Bloody hell. Right. Oh, okay, and now it's okay, so just bear with me because I think my computer's going to crash. Okay, so that's the second kick. Right, let me just redo what I just stuffed up. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect, but anyway, yeah. Let's just get that onto an A. That'll do for now. It should be alright. I just won't make sure I don't save it. That's okay. So that was the first kick. And then just put a bit of EQ on it. I always take off all the, let's just play that while I'm talking through this so you can see what's happening down here. I'll always take off a lot of the bottom end on here because it just muddies up the mix and just sounds awful, particularly when you play it in a car. And then I usually do a bit of a dip just here. So this is kind of a standard kind of EQ I will use on my kicks. And then for the second kick, again, same plug-in. That's kind of how I had the tuning on it. So this is actually a 909. I think the first one was an 808, if I remember rightly. Oh no, it's just the default analog thing. So the second kit was giving me a bit more low end. So I've not really done a lot in terms of the EQ, just dipped it out a little bit there. And I usually just take off all the high end because you don't really want a lot of that to muddy up the mix. In fact, I didn't take anything off that one. But there we go. Okay. So ignore these two. These were my original 2 kicks, and then I went to these other second ones and like those. But I kept those just in case I wanted to go back to that. So they are the kicks. So let's have a listen to what we've got then when the kick comes in. Okay, so we're not bringing too many elements in. It makes it easier for DJs to mix in and out as well. So the next 8 bars, we've just got a little FX whooshy sweep thing just to break it up a little bit. So it's got a nice long intro. So again, this is just a Vengeance sample. And then we bring in a second ARP and some more percussion. So again, this one was definitely off the hybrid synth. And let's just have a look so you can see how I've EQ'd this. So it's taken off all the bottom end because we don't need any of that, and a little bit off the top. Just boosted it here to bring it out in the middle, but we're just kind of sitting in this frequency range here. Panned that one slightly to the right, and then the Uno is panned slightly to the left. Put those two in together. Gives you a nice bit of width, and it helps them sit together in the mix nicely. And then I brought in this second hi-hat loop, which is basically just another offbeat kind of hi-hat thing. So I'll use like a combination of programmed MIDI stuff and on loops, but just kind of helps it build. Okay, so it's going to go for the next 8 bars. And then when we get to here, we're going to kind of introduce the theme of the track. Alright, so let's just solo this out. Okay, so this is the lead part, which comes in again later on down here. Okay, so this 8-bar sequence here is exactly the same as the bass. I kind of wanted to just tease the listener with the note changes and sort of the theme of the song, and then kind of drop that out and bring it back in later. So we go through that twice. So we've got two 8-bar sections of that. Again, just played in off the System 8, and no, didn't EQ that one at all. Okay, I got away with an easy one on that. And then we have another whooshy effects sweepy thing coming down here. So I'm a big fan of these. It just kind of gives it your track just that little bit extra of something just to keep the interest going, particularly if you've got 16 bars with not a lot happening. What I then wanted to do is just go into the main sort of bass motif riff or whatever here that we started off with. So just to give it a little bit of a break before that, we're dropping out the kick before that comes in. So if we just listen to this bit and that coming in, and then when the bass comes in, we're bringing in this clap, which was part of a clap loop, which I chopped up a little bit because I wanted to, because I kind of quite like the sound of it. And then I just chopped it up and put the double hit here. And then at the end of the 8 bars, we get this kind of offset clap here. Okay, so just rather than doing the standard 2 and 4, I just wanted to just vary it a little bit. Okay, so let's have a listen to what we've got up to that point. Okay, so we're going to repeat that same 8-bar phrase here. Okay, we've got a little whooshy effects thing in here just to give it a little bit of something extra. And then here we're going to drop out the kick, keep everything else going. And then we go into like the main bit of the song. So we bring the bass in, we bring the clap loop in. We're going to let that cycle through 2 lots of 8 bars, so we've got a 16-bar section here. So this is letting people kind of get into the groove, get into the note changes of the track. Okay, so we've had 16 bars of that moving, so we need to bring something new in. So I then decided let's use the mini log and just again another okay, so all of these 3 are basically just on one note, but they then kind of work quite nicely against the note changes in the bass. Okay, so they're just playing an A because that's the key that we're in, so it all kind of fits together nicely. And for the mini log, you see I've got it panned over to the right a little bit, and that's how I've EQ'd the mini log. Again, taking all the low end out because we don't need anything muddying up the mix down here, and a dip there. As you can see with my EQing, it's mostly always cutting rather than boosting. I very rarely boost anything. It's usually cutting, just letting space for everything to fit in together. At the same time as when we bring the mini log in, we're bringing in a little bit more percussion just to sort of start to lift the energy a bit more. So we have this just like offbeat ride cymbal loop. That's how I've EQ'd it. So a big cut here, didn't need anything in the bottom end, just getting rid of all of that. And we've got this crash as well, so we start to introduce even more elements. Okay, and getting these are just little samples and loops and stuff. So when we get to this next bit, things start to kind of come in pretty much every 8 bars then now. So we just sort of, let's go back here, take it off solo. So it's just giving it that extra bit of movement. Okay, so we've just got one round of 8 bars on that, and then we're going to bring even more in here. Okay, so what I felt when I got to this bit was it needed more stuff with the note changes following the bass. So we bring that second bass part in that we talked about right at the beginning. We bring the System 8 lead in, which is basically following the same notes as this bass bit. So these three will kind of sit together, doing the same note changes. Okay, we also down here add another little effect sweep. I tend to just stick these in at random. Okay, this has got like a pump to it, which is warped, so it goes in time. So in terms of that bass, just a little dip there. Normally I would actually take some of that bottom end out, but I didn't. The auto filter is for something at the end, so we'll come on to that in a second, or not in a second, in a while. Yeah, and then the second lead part on the System 8, again we've got some filters for stuff that's happening later on, as you can see, this automation here. So what we've got here is I recorded it, if I remember rightly, I recorded all of the System 8 with the filter open on the synth, and then I just kind of, because I just wanted to have an 8-bar loop, and then affect the filtering from in here. As you can see here, this filter is gradually opening. You'll see this move. Let's get to this bit. Okay, so we're gradually opening up the filter here. So it just gets brighter and brighter and more in your face, which is something I like to do as it sort of builds up to crescendos. And then it's completely open then on that last bit. So yeah, using the auto filter there to affect that. Can't quite remember what that one's for. There'll be some reasoning for that. We'll come to that in a sec. Yeah, and then again, EQ, taking off a lot of the bottom end here, and again a bit of a dip in here, just so it doesn't get too muddy in the middle bit of the mix. Right, what else have we got to bring in? We also bring in, when that lead comes in, a second mini log part, which is kind of like, again, sort of an octave higher, but following again the same note changes as these others, with this like every third 16th note rhythm. And we have more whooshy effectness coming in here. Okay. And we'll let that play through for 16 bars, so because that's like the main sort of riff of the song there, with everything playing. And in terms of panning, I just kind of move stuff around the stereo field to get it all to sit together nicely in the mix, and that's just a bit of trial and error. What we then have leading us up, because we've got this nice breakdown where there's not a lot happening. If I can find it, there is down here. I got this snare fill, which again is just like it's a Vengeance sample. And this kind of goes along for quite a long time. It's nearly 16 bars, but you don't really hear it a lot to start with. Okay, and then what I do down here is, you'll hear it, I filter it out with some automation on the auto filter, which you'll see here. So this is just building and building. Okay, so when it gets to its faster bit, I use that trick quite a lot, just to filter out the end of your snare fill, and then it just breaks it down really nicely when it goes into that section. So put it all into context. You can hear that snare fill building. Okay, so we drop down then into this middle section. There's only really sort of 2 sections to this track. It's just like one of these hypnotic things. So I wanted just to break it down completely into like a really chilled section in the middle. And for this, I'm using some of these analog strings, this contact player. I think, oh, that's signal from contact as well, and signal from contact as well. So you can see these pad sounds are basically just sort of following the bass part. We then have this second one's more of a like an ARP thing going on in the background, so that's just going on A. And then the third part, again following that note sequence. Which I think is just like again, more of a little ARP sort of sound. And then we start to reintroduce elements from previously. Bring that bass in. We're gradually fading in the System 8 lead. You can see here this, it's just using the filter. We bring the main bass part back in. You can hear that same snare drum fill is now coming. So it's all building and building. We're bringing in the ARP and the Uno from earlier. Okay, so then, let's just stop that a sec. I introduced this, just a second loop just to kind of take it somewhere slightly different on this section. Okay, so we're gradually opening up all the filters. And now we just bring everything back in with a big swoosh. Well, not everything, because what you don't want to do is go. I wanted to obviously leave myself something else to bring in. So the main kind of higher registered mini-log line that comes in right at the end here, I left that to come in after 8 bars, so it just lifts it to another sort of level. And then the ride loop as well I brought in later, just to, you know, to keep the interest going and keep it going. So the second half of the song is basically a repeat of the first half of the song, as you can see here, but we've introduced these other elements in here, which we keep going, that we sort of introduce in the middle bit, and then they extend on through to the end bit. So let's just have a listen to a bit more of that. Okay, so that second mini-log line coming in. And then we're going to bring this ride loop in. Again, just lift it a little bit more for the last 16 bars. And then we start this snare drum fill again, this long 16-bar snare drum fill, filtering it out at the end, as we've done previously. And then we go to the outro. So the outro, what I wanted to do is just keep it on one note rather than keeping that same bass pattern going. What I did was I just sort of chopped up the bass here and cycled it round on the first note. Okay, so you can hear now, and the same with this bass, everything's just the one note now. Okay, so it just kind of signals to the listener that, okay, right, yeah, we're going into the outro. And then ready for your outro, it's just like doing the opposite of the intro. Dropping stuff out. So you can see this, I've automated the volume of the main bass just to drop down there. Same with that bass. And then we start to drop elements out. So we've lost all of these now. So sometimes I will cut stuff off straight away, other times I will just fade them out, as I've done here with the some of these ARPs. So that's okay. And I will always finish a track, particularly like a full-length track like this, mostly with just drums, because DJs like it, because it makes their life easier for mixing into the next track. So a good tip is try and start and finish your track if you are stop that a sec. If you are aiming to get them played in clubs that DJs are going to use for mixers, yeah, start and end your track with as little melodic stuff as possible, because it makes their life so much easier and they're more likely to play it. So yeah, then we just end up with so you've just got this drum loop. So that's something that could be looped round and round in a DJ mix while you're bringing your next track in. So very DJ friendly. And then it just finishes there. So that's kind of like the basics of it. It's quite simple in terms of arrangement for this one, because there's as you can see, we've got two main sections. Okay, so we've got like section A and then section A1, if you want to call it, which has then extra elements added into it, which we introduce in the section B bit in the middle. What I would then do with a track like this, because you can see this is like a 7-minute track, I will then edit it down to make a radio edit, and I'll probably go through how I would do a radio edit. I might do that for next week's video. Actually, I'll do this same track, and I'll show you how I would approach doing a radio edit, if that's of interest to anybody. But a lot of it is just like, rather than having stuff repeated twice here, you can chop out 8 bars and 8 bars, and you don't need the big long intro and outro for your radio edits. So hopefully that was of some interest, and it gives you a little bit of insight into how I created this track. So like I say, if you want to subscribe to my Patreon, I will do the whole Ableton Live project like this. It's in Live 9 this, so if you've got 10 it's fine, it will still work. And I will also put all the stems in there, so if anybody is up for remixing this track, then have a go, send it over to me, and if it's any good, I'm happy to release it. If we could get like 3 or 4 remixes would be great, and we can stick a little remix EP out. So thanks for watching. If you've got any questions or comments, stick them in the box below, and yeah, like, subscribe, share it around, check my music out, and hopefully I'll see you on Patreon. Thanks for watching.